At the beginning of the film recap, a pregnant woman named Natalia is shown. Then it's time of her delivery. Elena, Natalie's mother, is also present. Natalis's condition is starting to make her uncomfortable, and her mother immediately takes her to the hospital. Due to the late hour, most of the doctors are absent. However, she is treated by a nurse. Now Natalia will give birth to a child. However, when they see the child, everyone is shocked and worried, because everything I witnessed was incredible. Because the baby is starting to fly, Natalia is also surprised. He then informs his mother that an angelic child has been born in their house. Natalie's mother, who is knowledgeable and seasoned, recognizes that he is not typical. And it's true because the baby was born without gravity. They are vulnerable persons, therefore leave the hospital. Despite what the nurse says, it's not time to release them yet. But they ignore her when she arrives at their home. When Natalia's mother enters the house, she asks her a strange question. She asks you to remember the child's guardian, but Natalia cannot recall the child's guardian. Then her mother informs us that the child is not normal, and that we have to keep it a secret, and we can be in a lot of trouble if anyone knows about it. They then choose the baby's name, which is Oscar, and Oscar was actually an unusual child, because his upbringing was not easy. He clung to the ceiling for a long time when they left him alone. His grandmother makes him different straps to keep the baby on the ground. They also make the ceiling mushy and soft, so the child cannot get hurt, because they were afraid, as if they left him outside alone, he will go to the space flying through the air, so they are very careful about Oscar. His mother and grandmother take a lot of care of him. Oscar begins to grow with the passage of time, but he stays in the house. His grandmother does not allow him to go out. He was looking at cartoons of Superman living at home. He also imagined himself to be a superhero. Oscar then asks his mother Natalie many times why she won't let him go out, but they ignore it. Oscar sees people through the window, including children like him who are on their way to school. And he looked at the playing children with longing eyes, yearning for an independent life. He thinks he might be trapped here forever. Then one day, irritated by the closeness of the house, Oscar tries to escape through the window, but his grandmother gets angry when she sees him. Grandma watches all the action and seals all the windows, and he guides Oscar that he will never go out of the house like children going to school, and he will read at home. When Oscar's mother hears this, she gets angry, and she says, "How long are we going to keep him in jail? He will go out at some point." Then Oscar's mother brings him a jacket with 2 stones in the pockets, so that he can't fly. He takes Oscar out and ignores his mother. Moreover, he asks her not to reveal the secret to anyone as Superman or he will not be Superman. One day, Oscar goes shopping with his mother and bumps into a girl. The little girl's name is Aghata. Aghata's merchandise fell from her hand. He shouts at Oscar, who hands him 2 bottles of water. He says it is your punishment to leave these bottles at my house. But Oscar refuses. But Oscar agrees to Agatha's insistence, and he goes with the girl without telling his mother. Now the 2 heavy bottles are in Oscar's hands and the stones are also in his pockets. As a result, she feels slightly overweight, so he drops 2 stones from his pocket. His friendship now develops with Agatha. Aghata reaches to her house and asks for the water bottle. But Oscar refuses to return the water bottles, because he knows that if the bottles are returned, he will start flying in the air. Agatha is immature, so she rips Oscar's water bottles. When he takes the water bottles from Oscar, he starts flying through the air. This place is tied to its surroundings, so Oscar doesn't fly too high. Aghata is stunned to see this and calls her Superman for screaming. Oscar asks her for help. Hearing this, Aghata immediately enters her house and brings her pink bag full of rocks. It was their good idea to put these stones in their pockets. Their plan succeeds and Oscar descends. Then they become bosom friends. Then Oscar says to Agatha, "Promise me, you will keep it a secret." On the other hand, the mother and grandmother are concerned about Oscar's disappearance. They search him a lot, and he thinks it as he flew through the air. His mother finds rocks lying on the ground, which she puts in her pocket. Afterwards, Oscar returns home with Agatha's given bag and tells his mother about Agatha. Then his mother asks, "Did you tell her your secret somewhere?" But he lies and says, "I didn't say that." Afterwards, Oscar and Aghata meet for many days. Then one day Oscar's mother learns that Aghata is aware of this secret. His mother forbids him to meet Agatha after that day. Aghata was going to Oscar's house, but Natalia turned her back at the door. Then they become suspect in the eyes of the people around them, because they felt that Oscar's mother and grandmother were treating him badly, so they won't let him go out, and he doesn't go to school either. They report it to the police and the police arrive at their house the next day and warn them to send Oscar to school. And they had to send Oscar to school under pressure. Afterwards, Oscar's mother goes to school with him. They are sure that Oscar will never be able to live a normal life. When they bring Oscar, their eyes well up with tears. Her mother understands everything, so she decides to leave the house. Then they start living in a distant place and leave their home. Many years have passed and Oscar has also grown up. His mother has aged, while his grandmother has not, and Oscar still has that bag from Agatha. He never separated the bag from him. Even he once slept when he took this bag with him. His way of life was still the same even today as he spent his life at home. His life is spent on secrets. Oscar and his mother took care of each other. Oscar bored with his life. He was frustrated with keeping this secret. Then he thinks that in a short time he will be famous all over the world as his ideal Superman if the world knows about him. And many people will write books about him. But his mother doesn't want that. But his mother explains that won't happen. She thinks that she will lose him if the world knows about this secret. She shows patience for her mother's sake. But one day he runs out of the house without telling his mother. He then attends a magic show to show off his talent for the first time, where people's talents are revealed. This show hits its peak that night, and his mother watches the show too. Oscar's mother is clueless about this. Many people saw him on TV, which made him well known. The next day she meets a man named David. He is actually an agent. He guarantees Oscar that he can support him in becoming famous. We will ensure a crowd that will make you famous. She gives him a big house to live in and signs the contract. Oscar wanted to be famous. When he goes to the big show, he shows his performance. Oscar becomes a household name all too soon. And then he is named the man without gravity. These people like to earn a lot of money in their work. However, one day Oscar feels that his childhood dream of becoming a superhero is not real. He has become just a puppet that people use for their entertainment. Sometimes he was called in a magic show and sometimes in a media event. Over time, he starts to dislike it, although many books have been written about him, and many magazines are printed, and there are documents that show a bad image of his mother and grandmother, and Oscar doesn't like it. Then there's the final performance where he's in the costume of an angel he hates. He says, "I am not an angel." She starts bad-mouthing people on the show and gets angry. Then he tells his mother that he has decided to leave all these things. He tells his agent, "Enough. I don't want to be famous and my job was until this time." He won't work anymore. His agent explains, "You can't leave it like that." But Oscar is irritated by all this. He asks him to tell the people, the man without gravity died or flew into the air. He says goodbye to his mother because he wants to live a separate life. The death of the man without gravity will be revealed in the coming days. Many people talk about him differently. Oscar's mother starts living alone, and many journalists continue their visits to their house to get information about Oscar, but she never told them anything. After many years, Oscar's mother also died, but Oscar was still alive. He led his life in a different way. He had a long beard and sat in a wheelchair to hide his secret from the world. He changed his identity while working at a hotel as a receptionist. Everyone was polite to him. One day he runs into his friend Ada. She recognizes him by the pink handbag that Oscar still had today, which she gave him in childhood. And because of this bag he remained on Earth and did not marry. They feel happiness when meeting each other. However, Agatha was dissatisfied with her life, because her purpose was only to make money, so she had no conscience. He visited the hotel where Oscar had a job with many boys. Oscar feels very bad when he sees her. Oscar shares his feelings with Agatha many times. She has changed too much so she ignores his words. It states that Oscar still had feelings for her. Woes are the reason for Agatha's transformation of life, and Oscar left her too. They eventually reconcile and get married. They end up sharing the same childhood home. And here the movie recap ends.